Auteur Theory and the Director's Vision. In this module, we delve deeply into auteur theory, one of the most influential, debated, and controversial concepts in film theory. The term auteur, meaning author in French, implies that the director is the central creative force behind a film, imprinting it with a distinctive personal vision, style, and thematic signature. This idea revolutionized the way films were critically understood, shifting the focus from cinema as industrial production to cinema as artistic expression. Emerging in the 1950s and 60s through the French film journal Cahiers du Cinéma, the theory was later popularized in Anglo-American criticism by figures such as Andrew Sarris. Auteur theory argues that despite filmmaking being a collaborative effort involving screenwriters, cinematographers, editors, and producers, the director unifies all these elements, much like a novelist or painter, to produce a coherent, recognizable body of work. In this module, we will explore the origins of auteur theory in French New Wave cinema, examine the stylistic trademarks and thematic obsessions of major auteurs, e.g., Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick, Akira Kurosawa, Quentin Tarantino, Ava DuVernay. Discuss the evolution of the auteur concept into global and postmodern contexts. Investigate criticisms of auteur theory, particularly its gender bias, Western centrism, and industrial mythologizing. Analyze the tension between personal vision and industrial constraints. Consider how new media, e.g., Netflix auteurs, YouTube creators, reshape our understanding of authorship. Ultimately, this module aims to equip you with the tools to recognize, interpret, and critique cinematic authorship in both classical and contemporary forms. Learning objectives. By the end of this module, you will be able to understand the historical roots and intellectual foundations of auteur theory, identify the recurring visual and thematic motifs that define an auteur's body of work, analyze films through the lens of directorial authorship, critically assess the validity and limitations of auteur theory in diverse global and industrial contexts, recognize how streaming platforms and digital creators complicate traditional notions of the auteur. Section 1. Origins of auteur theory. Auteur theory was born in post-war France, developed by film critics such as François Truffaut, Jean-Luc Godard, and Eric Rohmer, who would go on to become filmmakers themselves. Truffaut's landmark 1954 essay, A Certain Tendency of French Cinema, attacked the tradition of quality, a studio system dependent on literary adaptations and star-driven productions. Instead, he championed directors like Jean Renoir and Alfred Hitchcock, whose stylistic signatures transcended the script and formula. Key principles. The director is the film's primary author. A true auteur leaves a personal imprint visual, narrative, and philosophical across their films. Great auteurs often challenge conventions and express a worldview or obsession. This theory aligned cinema more closely with literature, painting, and sculpture, legitimizing it as a high art. Section 2. Andrew Sarris and the Americanization of auteur theory. Andrew Sarris, an American critic, introduced auteur theory to the English-speaking world. In his 1962 essay, Notes on the Auteur Theory, he proposed a three-tiered criteria to evaluate auteur status. Technical competence. A director must show command over the filmmaking medium. Distinguishable personality. Visual and thematic consistency across films. Interior meaning. A metaphysical or philosophical resonance detectable beneath the surface. Using this framework, Sarris constructed a pantheon of great directors, placing figures like Orson Welles, Howard Hawks, and John Ford as auteurs whose work transcended genre and studio limitations. Section 3. Characteristics of auteur. Cinema auteurs are recognized by their recurring themes, stylistic choices, and narrative structures. Let's consider some hallmark examples. These directors transcend genre boundaries, and their films exhibit artistic unity and philosophical coherence. Section 4. Critiques and limitations of auteur theory. While auteur theory has elevated film analysis, it has also faced significant criticism. Collaborative nature of film. Critics argue that film is inherently collaborative. Writers, editors, cinematographers, and producers often shape a film as much as the director. Gender bias. The auteur canon has traditionally excluded women and people of color, reinforcing a patriarchal hierarchy. Romantic mythology. Auteur. Theory risks creating cults of personality that obscure the industrial realities of filmmaking. Commercial constraints. Many directors work under restrictive studio systems, making full authorship an illusion. Pauline Kael, a leading critic, famously challenged Sarris's pantheon, asserting that great films often result from accidental alchemy, not singular genius. Section 5. Global and contemporary auteurs. In the global era, auteur theory has expanded to include voices from around the world: Bong Joon-ho, South Korea, genre-bending narratives, social inequality, tonal shifts, Parasite, Memories of Murder; Pedro Almodovar, Spain, melodrama, queer identity, visual flamboyance, Talk to Her, All About My Mother; Chloe Zhao, China, USA, minimalism, naturalism, poetic realism, non-actors, Nomadland, The Rider; Barry Jenkins, USA, black identity, intimacy, lyrical cinematography, Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk. Streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon, and Apple TV have also cultivated new auteurs, granting creative freedom to distinctive voices. Meanwhile, online content creators from YouTubers to TikTok filmmakers challenge old hierarchies by asserting authorship in digital spaces. Section 6. Auteurism in the postmodern age. Postmodern cinema often questions or deconstructs the idea of authorship. Directors like Quentin Tarantino and the Coen brothers create films that are intertextual, self-referential, and stylized, embracing the aesthetic of pastiche and cultural recycling. In a postmodern world, the auteur is less a solitary genius and more a curator of influence. The boundaries between high art and pop culture dissolve. Authorship becomes fragmented, shared with writers, showrunners, and audiences, e.g., fan fiction, extended universes. Still, the director's vision remains a powerful lens through which we interpret cinema. Key takeaways. Auteur theory recognizes the director as the primary creative force in filmmaking. It has legitimized film as an art form and enabled in-depth thematic and stylistic analysis. Auteurs are marked by recurring visual styles, narrative structures, and philosophical concerns. The theory has limitations, especially in overlooking collaboration and marginalized voices. In the digital era, authorship is more complex, distributed, and democratized than ever.